Hi, I'm going to be demonstrating measurement of the head using the International 1020 system. I'm going to be going over steps 1, 2, and 3. First, what we're going to do is locate the 4 anatomical landmarks on the head. The first one being the nasion, which is right at the top of the bridge of the nose where it meets the forehead. So I'm just going to make a little mark here for the nasion. And at the back of the head, the protrusion, the little bony protrusion at the occipital bone at the base of the skull is the inion. So we're just going to make a little mark here, right, kind of like in the midline for the inion. Now we have 2 preauricular points, one at each ear, and that's usually anterior to the tragus here, which is that little notch right there. And we're going to go right above that. And then on the left, so we have our left and right preauricular points. Our first measurement is going to be from the nasion to the inion. So we're going to set the tape here from the nasion. We're going to measure it back through the midline of the head to the inion, and I'm getting 33 centimeters. So we're going to take half of that measurement. Half of 33 is 16 and a half. And so we're going to go back 16 and a half. We're going to make a perpendicular mark right here at 16 and a half, and that's our first mark for CZ. Now we're going to take 10% of that nasion to inion measurement, which is 33, and we're going to go up 3.3 and make a little mark here, and that's our first mark for FPZ. Just going to extend the mark a little bit, and we're going to make a cross mark in line with the nose, so kind of in the midline there, and that's our cross mark for FPZ. Now we're going to take the tape measure from FPZ to CZ, which is 13. And we're going to take half of that, which is also 20% of the nasion to inion measurement. And that's going to be 6.5. So we're going to make a little mark here, and that's our first mark for FZ. So then we're going to go back, take the tape back to CZ, and we're going to measure to our inion, and we're going to go back another 20%. So another 20% is 6.5 again, and that's our first mark for PZ. We're going to go down one more time from PZ to the inion, and we're going to do another 6.5 mark, and that's our measurement for OZ. And from OZ to our inion should be 3.3, and that's 10%. Now we're going to measure from preauricular point to preauricular point, and we're going to measure through our first mark for CZ. So we're going to measure through the center of the head. So we're going to take the tape measure from the left and just kind of run it through CZ and over to our right preauricular. I'm getting 32 centimeters. So I'm going to take half of that, which is 16, and I'm going to make a cross mark right at 16. So now we're going to have a cross mark. It should intersect with that first mark that we made for CZ. So now we have a cross mark for CZ. Now we're going to take 10% of 32, which is that preauricular measurement, and 10% is going to be 3.2. So we're going to go up from the left preauricular and 3.2 centimeters, and that is our first measurement, or first mark for T3 on the left side. Then we're going to take and move that up and measure from T3 to CZ, and we're getting about 12.8. So we're going to take half of that, which is 6.4, and I'm going to make a mark, our first mark for C3, right at 6.4. And then we're going to move over to the right side, and I'm going to start from CZ. And we're going to go down another 20% towards the preauricular point, and that 20% is 6.4. So that's our first marking for C4. I'm going to go down one more, 6.4, and that is our first marking for T4. So from T4 to our preauricular should be 3.2. That's 10%. Now that we have 4 10% marks on the head, so we have a 10% mark here at FPZ, then we have a 10% mark up from the right preauricular, and that would be our first mark for T4, and then we have a 10% mark up from the inion, which is OZ, and then a 10% mark up from T3, from the left preauricular, which is T3. So in order to get the circumference of the head, we're going to measure through all 4 of these 10% marks. So we're going to take the tape measure and just go through all of these 10% marks. And back to FPZ, which we're getting 54 centimeters. So we're going to make 10% marks around the circumference of the head. So we're going to start with FP1 and FP2. FP1 being on the left, FP2 being on the right, and they need to be 5.4 centimeters apart. So we're going to take half of 5.4, which is 2.7, and we're going to put that 2.7 right at FPZ and measure across. So I'm going to make one mark right here at 0 and one mark at 5.4. So what we're going to do is take the tape measure and line that perpendicular mark up with FPZ. So we have a cross mark for FP1 and FP2. So just to make sure, we have 5.4 centimeters. So now we're going to start with the right, and we're going to make another 10% mark towards T4. So we're going to start with FP2 and line it up with our first mark for T4. And we're going to go over 5.4 centimeters for our F8. That's our first mark for F8. Then we're going to go from F8 towards T4, towards the back of the head, and we're going to go over another 5.4. So now these, we're going to have a cross mark for T4. Now we're going to go over another 5.4 centimeters towards OZ, and we're going to make our first mark for T6. So another 5.4 centimeters, and that is our first mark for T6. And then we're going to go from T6 over towards OZ and make another 5.4 mark for our O2. So now we're going to do the same thing with the left side. We're going to start with FP1, and we're going to go over 5.4 centimeters. Towards T3. So 5.4. And that is our first mark for F7. And then we're going to start from F7 through T3 towards T3. And we're going to go over another 5.4. And now we have a cross mark for T3 as well. And then we're going to line the tape up with T3 towards OZ. we're going to make another mark, a 20% mark, which is 5.4 again, for our T5. And then again, another 5.4 for our O1. So between O1 and O2 should be 5.4. So we're going to make a cross mark for O1 and O2. We're just going to line the tape up with OZ, and that way we can make a perpendicular mark, kind of use the tape measure as a straight edge. So now we have a cross mark for O1 and a cross mark for O2, O1, O2. So the cross marks that we have are for T4, we have one for CZ, we have one for T3, FP1 and FP2. But we don't have any for our F7 or our T5 or F8 or T6. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the tape measure and just kind of line this up. And we're going to start with the right side. We're going to line it up and make a cross mark for F8. And just take it as far across the head as you can, keeping it in line. And make one for T6. And now we're going to turn it to the left and do the same thing. I'm going to go hold the tape kind of in line with FP1 through our other cross mark here at T3, and we're going to make a cross mark for F7. So now we have a cross mark for F7, and you can slide it over as far as you can go towards O1, and now we're going to make a cross mark for T5. Okay, so just to recap, we have FPZ, FP1, FP2, which is 10% of the circumference. We have F8, T4, T6, O2, O1. We have FZ, CZ, PZ, and OZ. Okay, we're just going to double check our measurements from each electrode site. I'm just going to start with the nasion to FPZ. And getting 3.2. And then FPZ to FZ. I got 6.5. And then FZ to CZ, 6.5. CZ to PZ is 6.5. PZ to OZ, 6.5. And from OZ to the Indian is about 3.3. Oop, move that over, 3.3. Actually, 3.2. Now we're going to start with our T3 to C3, and that'd be on the left side. So we're going to measure from T3, I'm going to measure from the preauricular to T3 first. And I have 3.2. Now from T3 to C3, I have 6.4. and from C3 to CZ, 6.4 again, and from CZ to C4, it's about 6.4 as well, and then C4 to T4, it's actually 6.5, and then T4 to our right preauricular is 3.3. Now we're going to measure from FP1 to F7, so we're going to get our circumference measurements. So FP1 to F7 is about 5.4, and then T3 to F7 is 5.3, and then T5 to T3 is 5.4, O2 to T5, 5.4, O1 to O2, 5.4, T6 to O1, we got about 5.3 there, and then T4 to T6, 5.4, and then F8 to T4 is about 5.3. Now FP2 to F8 is about 5.5.